In this video tutorial, we will demonstrate a simple job setup in Gravostyle with an emphasis on the laser side of the software for creating a simple plate that would be sent over to a laser engraver. We will show how to set up the plate dimensions, the margin values, the orientation, and simple text editing in the job once the overall plate dimensions and margins are defined. So when we open Gravostyle, this first screen pops up, Material and Machining Definitions, and you'll see plate dimensions is the first field here that can be edited. This will default the numerical values for the material height and width will default to the max table size of the laser or engraver that you have set up in your software. So in this case, I'm working with our LS100 laser engraver, which gives us an 18 by 12 engraving area. So thus you see the 18 by 12 plate dimensions defaulted in this setting. But here is where we would actually program in the size of the plate or material dimension that we're working with. In this case, we're just going to create a small plate. It could be plastic, it could be metal, just for demonstration purposes. So I will establish the length. In this field here, we'll just say it is 3 inches wide, and we'll make it 1 inch tall. Okay. Now down here we have the margin values. The software will default to the automatic margin setting because this option is checked, and that will take 10% of this value and apply it to the left, right, top, and bottom margin. So you can leave it at that, or you can actually select the second box here for identical margins, and basically whatever you enter in for the left margin value, the right, top, and bottom will mimic that setting. Okay, so since we're working with a smaller plate size, I'm going to decrease the margin value from 0.3, and we'll just make that 0.125, eighth of an inch. Alright, and since I have that checked, it will make these other three, the right, top, and bottom margin, 0.125 as well. Now if for some reason you need to make the left margin or the right margin, top, bottom, different from another, you uncheck both boxes, and then I can go in here and edit each one individually. So I could, if I was putting a logo on the left side of this plate, I could increase my left margin, and make it larger to accommodate that logo, for instance. All right. In this case, I want my margins to be the same all the way around, so I'll just leave that checked. Now, you could go ahead and OK this here by hitting the check mark, and it will draw it out to size on screen. If you look at the screen background, the solid line in the background is the actual plate dimension, okay, that we're programming in here. The dotted line will actually be the margin value. And the margin is simply there to restrict the text or artwork from going all the way to the edge of our material. Now we've completed what we need on this tab. You can hit check to OK that. You can also click on the second tab here, and you can go ahead, if you had more than one machine connected to the PC, you could go ahead and select which machine this particular file is going to output to. You can go ahead and assign the orientation. This right now it's on normal left to right. Depending on how we had the material laid down into the laser table. If we had it rotated 90 degrees, then we could select this one or this one depending on the orientation. But most of the time you're going to work from standard left to right. And then we have origin values here. Typically the lasers start at the upper left hand corner against the rulers. That's your home position, which would be the 0, 0 point. So that's typically where you start. And then if you have a cylindrical attachment, rotary attachment, whatever you want to call it, this is where you would go in to actually select that if you were going to send this file over and do a cylindrical object like a tumbler or a glass, something like that. But we're going to leave this on flat engraving for now. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and hit the check button here, and you'll see it draws it out. So we have our ruler at the top, 0 to 3 across, 0 to 1 high. So we're 3 by 1. We've got our 1/8 inch margin all the way around. So the software starts us off in what we call automatic mode. So it's going to place our text cursor right in the center of the engraving area. And it's going to center that text based on the font and the character height. Now, if you look up here on the top toolbar, you'll see your two main functions here for text editing are your character height, which is here, and this is an inch value. By default, you can change that in the options. You can hit F10 to go to the options in the software and set up all your defaults. And then your font drop down, which is here. And TrueType fonts are the fonts that are already installed in Windows on the PC, and you can use any of those TrueType fonts in Gravostyle. TrueType fonts can be used on mechanical engravers, which by default will just engrave the outline of the text. But in laser mode, the TrueType font is going to automatically fill the text just like a printer would. So typically TrueType fonts are used on the laser side. We do have our own Gravograph or Gravotech fonts that can be purchased. They're different packs that we have. Where we can send a catalog to you so you can view those if needed. But we start with Font Pack 0, and Font Pack 0 is included in the software by default. But you can add the different packs, and there's a set number of fonts that come in each pack. These are where a lot of your fancy script type fonts, multi-line fonts, vector type fonts that you see, that's where these are located. And the ones that you purchase will be the ones that will actually show up in the software. So we're going to start with TrueType fonts since we're working with laser, and I'm just going to start with a basic Arial font. And at this point, I've selected the font. I can put in a size, let's just say 1/4 inch, and we'll say Gravostyle 9, and we can also, I just hit enter there to give me a second line. That's all you need to do to generate another line. And then I can go up here and I can change the font size for this second line, make it a little smaller. So we'll do 0.185. And we'll say this is going to be laser mode. Alright, now if I wanted to edit this text at this point, just like a word processor, it has to be highlighted. So I can highlight that text, and then I can come up here and change the size, make make it a little smaller, and you can hit enter there. If I wanted to change the font, I could make this, you know, a different font. There are other basic text functions on the toolbar up here as well. Let me select a different font here. There we go. You've got underline, italics, superscript or exponent feature. Of course, you have your normal justification tools, and that's your basic text functions there. All right. Now, if I wanted to send this file to the laser, then I would simply click on the marking icon here. That will bring up my laser marking screen. All right. And you'll see your machine model should show up here. And we only had the color black, which is assigned to the text in our file. So that's the only color that's going to show up here. So we can set the power, speed. We have our DPI settings here. There's an autofocus. If you want to turn on the autofocus for the laser, you can enable that here. You can send a test border over to the laser, and it will use the red beam to basically draw a rectangular border around the extremities of where the text is going to fall on the plate. So there's different, you know, features here on the laser marking screen. A lot of this you'll see that we saw on the front end on our first screen when we clicked on that second tab, but you do have those same features that you can select here on the laser driver screen before you send the file over. Alright, so we'll close this out. The other thing I wanted to mention was the laser color palette. So right now everything in our file is assigned to the color black. Alright, so if I double click back on my text, it takes me back into text mode. And by the way, you can click the little pinwheel up here at the top, and that will open up more controls for your text. So, you know, you've got inner line spacing controls, you know, uppercase, lowercase, and a lot of these may show up in a higher level of software depending on which level you get. Usually our lasers, if you buy a laser, it comes with graphic levels, so you'll already have all these controls. If you're working with Gravostyle on the rotary side, most of the machine models come with discovery level, which is the base level, so some of these features you may not see in that level. But this just opens up more text controls when you click on that pinwheel, and it gives you the full text toolbar. But if we wanted to, say, change this to a different color, and by color I mean we're just going to change, say I wanted to actually do a vector outline of this text versus raster engrave it. Raster engraving, the laser head is moving back and forth like a printer. It's going to fill in the text and basically, you know, laser out the whole thing. In this case, I want to just create an outline or a vector outline of this text. Then I could assign it a different color. I have to highlight it and then click on the color over here on the laser color palette that I want. So I'll do that. And right here, this column right here is the fill column. So I don't want to fill the text in. I want to do an outline. So there's a couple of ways I can do that. If you look over here, you've got vector mode. So I could put my checkbox in that, and it will basically vector outline that text. So the width of the laser beam is going to basically engrave that line for the letters. Now, this is the mode that you would use also if you want to cut something out. You know, if you're going to cut, you know, a shape or a design out with the machine. But in this case, this would be a very thin line, very detailed line, because it's the width of the laser beam. If I change that, and I want that line stroke to be a little wider, then I can click on this option here, which is the contour. All right, and then I increase the size or the width of that line stroke here in this text field. So if I put in, let's say, 10,000ths of an inch, 0.010, and hit enter, you'll see now I've got more of an outline on the letters. It's not completely filled in, but it will be a thicker line. All right, and this is something you can change so that you can still do, you know, outline or vector type fonts with a laser engraver. So we'll put this back. But that's the functionality of the color palette. So you can change from fill to vector. You can also, if you were doing perforated cut marks for a fold line on a piece of cardstock or something like that that you're cutting out with, or paper that you're, you know, marking with the laser, you can use this option here, this column, and it will actually generate a dotted line or a perforated line to do that. You wouldn't do that for text necessarily, but just so you know it's there. All right, so that's your basic job setup and text functions in the laser mode. You can see up here at the top we're in the laser side of the software, so the text is filled in. There are other you know, advanced features and stuff that we can talk about in other videos. This was just meant to be a basic step one: set up your material, enter in your text, and then go to the laser marking screen to actually run it. Hope this helps.